there's sufficient evidence for the state to go forward after its case. So that's all that ruling was, and that's just for the purpose of clarifying the record, because I didn't state, as I probably said it sometimes I don't, that considering the evidence in the light most favorable to the state, which we know, those of us who do this, that's what I'm required in this case. But I wanted to make that clear. And as I understand, you have 2 witnesses today. You think they'll go to 5 o'clock?
No.
But why don't we have enough to go to 5 o'clock?
Well, Your Honor, we did not know exactly when the state was going to rest their case.
I understand. And so you plan to call?
Yes, sir. So we do have 2 that we are prepared to call today, and we'll be able to.
How long do your 2 witnesses that will testify on Wednesday?
First witness, Your Honor, I think on the direct, an hour or so, and I would imagine probably no more than an hour on cross.
All right, and then what about the second witness?
I'm really sure.
We will be able to get in all of our evidence on Wednesday.
All right, that's fine.
Yes, sir.
So the reason I'm saying that, I may want to start at 10 o'clock on Wednesday, so we can maybe try to conclude this case on Wednesday if we can. So we'll see where we are with that, and we'll have a bench conference discussing the breadth of the witnesses, and I'll have a better feeling for it. All right, thank you very much. Is the state ready to proceed?
We are, Your Honor.
And the defendant's ready to proceed?
Ready to see, Your Honor.
All right, let's bring in our jury.
Your Honor, briefly, and it's up to the court, of course, but do you think that now's an appropriate time to question the defendant as to his knowledge?
Excuse me, thank you very much, I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
I would do that. At this point, has the defendant made a decision whether he's going to testify or not testify?
Not at this point, Your Honor.
All right, that's fine, and at this point, I will not examine him. If he does, or before you rest, I won't revisit that, okay? Thank you. Thank you very much. I made an assumption that I shouldn't have made because we've tried this case before.
Yes, sir.
Right. Thank you. You may bring in the jury. Good lunch. You recall when we started this, I mentioned to you that it was the only party that had any burden of proof as a state bringing these charges, and that the defendant had no burden whatsoever, didn't have to prove anything, didn't have to say anything, didn't have to present any evidence. But as I told you, if he chooses to, he wouldn't have that opportunity until the state had completed its case. Now we're at that point. And Mr. Bouchette, does Mr. Moore wish to present any additional testimony for the jury's consideration?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may call your first witness, sir.
Defense calls Mr. Bruce Koenig to the stand.
Set your papers right here. Please raise your right hand, place your left hand on the Bible. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that evidence you're about to give the court in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Be seated. State your full name and spell your last name.
Yes. My name is Bruce E. Koenig. That's spelled Koenig.
Mr. Koenig, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Tell us, where are you currently employed?
I'm employed as a private forensic examiner involved with audio, video, and images, like from video or from a still camera.
And where are you employed?
Where?
Yes, sir.
I'm presently in Palm Harbor, Florida. The company originally started outside of Washington, D.C.
Okay. And what's your position with the company?
I'm the founder of the company, but presently an associate. I gave my younger associate the company, and he has to do all the invoices now, all those kind of things.
Well, tell me this. How did you get into that line of work?
I was hired by the FBI in 1970 under their science program, and I came in as a special agent. And after being in Atlanta and Detroit as a field agent, I was promoted to headquarters in Washington, D.C., where I was put into the engineering group involved with forensic analysis of audio and video.
Now, at some point, were you the head of the forensic lab for audio and video for the FBI?
Yes, I managed the entire group for about the last 8 or 9 years of my career. It's a very large group, by far the biggest group of its type. When I was there was about 30 people in the group. That ranged from, I usually had 3 or 4 PhDs, down to people that packaged the evidence to send it back, and everybody in between, examiners, engineers, and all that were involved with research projects. And the FBI did work not only for the FBI, our forensic group did work for any law enforcement agency in the United States and for many foreign countries. So we were there supporting. The local police here could use us to do their work, so it was not just the FBI.
Now, I'd imagine back whenever you got started, did you have to do both audio and visual? Audio and video, rather?
When I first got back there was almost no video. I know we all live in a world with iPhones now. Everybody has a video camera basically with them. But back then, VHS was just starting to really come about. There was hardly any consumer recordings being made. People used VHS to play movies at home. So we had very little video work coming in, even though we got a huge amount of cases. So virtually everybody in the staff did audio. And then we had a few people that also did video at the beginning.
Okay. And over time, did the mix of audio and video start to change?
Right. We started getting a few more consumer surveillance systems and business surveillance systems on VHS. Those used are not very old. They were black cartridges you could put stuff in and record on. But it probably was not into the 90s, especially the latter part of the 90s at least, before we started seeing many digital video, which is what we have now.
Okay. Give us an example of the type of assignment that your team there at the FBI would be tasked with dealing with on a daily basis.
Well, obviously we got all kinds of things anybody could video record, but common would be we'd have a recording of somebody being shot. So we'd have the audio and the video. So our concerns would be, was there more than one shooter? Who actually fired the shot? How many shots were fired? These are the kind of things we would do on a daily basis. Back then it was often stuff from like bank robberies and stuff like that were video recorded.
I'd talk about maybe a couple of the more high-profile assignments. I understand you were involved in reviewing the video in the President Reagan attempted assassination back in 1982.
That's correct. We had the footage from the news media that were recording him at the site. And even though we now know that John Hinckley was the only one shooting, at that point we didn't know that. So we had to analyze, again, both the audio and video tracks to determine if there was a possible second shooter. How many times did he fire? Was he the one that fired? So these were standard kind of cases for us, except that in this case it involved the President of the United States. So obviously it took on a little more serious nature, I guess.
Okay. And just a couple others. I understand you're also involved in reviewing the video footage from the Branch Davidian complex incident in Waco, Texas. Is that right?
Yes, the Branch Davidian complex, one of the other agencies, not the FBI, tried to arrest the head of that organization, and it ended up being into a firefight there. Ultimately, it was under siege. The FBI was brought in to actually run the system afterwards, and we had video using what we call far infrared systems of planes overhead. And when the complex went up in flames, the question was, who started the fire? People accused that the law enforcement people there started the fire. We were able to show, before the law enforcement ever moved in at all, the fire started in multiple places within the Branch Davidian complex, showing that it had been started by the people there inside.
Okay. And for the last one, how about I understand you were involved in the Duke Lacrosse case.
Yes. We were brought in on that to look. There was a number of videos, and all in there. We had to figure out what was going on. There was a young lady that said bad things happened to her during a certain period of time. We were able to show the video that did not happen. We were also able to pull off a time of a wristwatch that was very hard to see, and that showed that the person, one of the people being accused, couldn't even been there. He was there at a different time. So we did a number of different types of analysis, both mostly video, but a few audio, showing what really happened there on the site.
Okay. Now, prior to joining the FBI, tell us a little bit about your formal education. Where'd you go to college? What kind of degrees do you have?
I have my undergraduate degrees from the University of Maryland, which used to be in the ACC, not anymore. I had double majors of physics and mathematics. I then got a course through DeVry Institute of Technology, which is now called DeVry University, involved with television production and video production and the circuitry and all. My master's degree is in forensic science from George Washington University. I've taken additional graduate courses in my various fields at Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, George Mason University, the University of Colorado at Denver, and the University of Utah.
Okay. And any specialized courses specifically on imaging or video?
Yes, I'm going to look at my list here because I
Okay.
memorized the titles of all these.
That's fine.
This lists some of my curriculum vitae, lists some of my courses I've taken. Let me see. I took a course called Applications of Modern Image Processing Systems, presented by the International Society for Optical Engineering.
Well, I'll tell you what, let me ask you this. Since you left the FBI, are you still doing the same type of work in the private sector?
I am.
Okay. And is your work strictly in the United States, or do you do work in other countries as well?
Oh, we work in other countries. In fact, I testified in August in Singapore.
Okay.
And last year I testified in Belfast, Ireland.
Okay.
We do a lot of work out of the UK, out of London and Northern Ireland specifically, but also in other countries.
Okay. How about any professional societies? Are you in this line of work involved in any professional societies?
Yes, I'm involved with the major societies involved with both audio and video.
Okay, and what are those?
I'm in the International Association for Identification. I'm a distinguished member of that, plus a reviewer for their journal.
Okay.
I'm in the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineering. I'm a light member there. This is the society that all the engineers, electrical and electronic engineers, are a member of, a very large society. They're much into the theory of a lot of things I do. They don't tend to write very practical research papers, but they're the basis for a lot of the stuff we do. Specifically in video, I'm a member of the Society of Motion Picture and Television Engineers, which kind of describes what they do. So the people that are putting all this together for the networks and all that are members of this society.
Okay. And have you published peer-reviewed articles in this particular field?
I have published over 40 articles total.
Okay. And have you ever testified in court regarding forensic video analysis?
Yes, a number of times.
Okay. And have you been certified by any court in forensic video analysis?
Yes.
Okay. How many times have you testified, generally?
Total over 400 times as an expert.
Okay. All right. Your Honor, at this time, I'm going to move to have this witness certified as an expert in the field of forensic video analysis.
Very well. Koenig Tammy, Mr. Qualifications.
Just a couple questions as to the qualifications. Mr. Koenig, I've only got a couple questions. You told this jury that when you were in the FBI, you were the head of the audio video section. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay, now tell them, were you the head of both or just the audio section, and a guy named Noel Harrell was the head of the video?
Okay. Good question. I managed the entire group, all the audio and video. Noel Harrell was my senior video guy.
Okay, so you're saying now that you were not the senior in audio.
I was the senior audio guy.
Okay, and the other guy was the senior video guy, correct?
Yes, but I managed the entire group. No Harold worked for me.
Okay. But he did video and you did audio.
Again, we didn't have that much video.
Right.
So he and Dale Linden
Okay.
were the two that did most of the video, but they also did audio. I also did video and was certified by the Bureau for Video
Okay.
because I read all of Noel Harold's reports.
Okay.
So I had to read them technically. And then second, I did almost all the gunshot work during my time there.
Okay.
So much of that was on video. So
Okay.
I had to interpret. So, you know, everybody there probably did more audio during that time period than video, just simply because of the caseload.
Now, let me ask you this. What year did you leave the FBI?
I retired at the end of 1995.
Okay. I was trying to think back where I was and what I was doing in 1995. And it's been a long time ago. And I remember still being at home, of course, with my parents. And I still remember having a VHS. Man, I love that thing. Back in 1995, was the majority of the video, wasn't it still VHS? I don't even remember digital back in 1995. I didn't even have a cell phone in 1995.
It existed in the professional ranks, but not in the consumer ranks.
Okay, so I didn't have digital. I couldn't buy a surveillance system that had digital in 1995.
That would probably be true. That's correct.
Okay, so back in 1995, the only thing that was available to me, and I still remember going to the video store, was just the old VHS tapes. Okay.
And beta.
Okay. So back then, consumers didn't have digital yet.
That's exactly right. If they had it, they had what you had. They played movies.
Okay.
Yeah, so nobody was getting an exorbitant amount of video. We get
Right.
some from banks, we get some from professional or news media.
Right.
And the news media was moving over to digital. Digital beta is actually what they still use today in that time period. So, yeah, the video system, when it went to digital, it then became that audio and video are very close. Like, there's an audio format that's, you know, motion JPEG, which is a bunch of images that are JPEG.
Right.
At a digital level, an audio and video file might look very much alike
Okay.
administratively.
Okay.
So all this started changing in the late 90s. I was still back at the FBI. I retired at the end of 95, but the Bureau brought me back for 8 or 9 more years as a contractor.
Okay.
So I was there at the start of when we started really getting a lot of digital work.
Okay, so in 1995, though, I couldn't go out and buy a surveillance system for my home.
I don't want to swear there was a system out there, but they would be fairly rare.
Okay, okay. So it certainly wasn't what it is now, correct?
That's absolutely right.
Okay. And digital didn't become big until after you left the FBI in 1995.
Again, it was there, I came back as a contractor for 8 or 9 more years, so I was there in 2003 or 4.
Okay.
By then, we were starting to get digital.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when you left the FBI in 1995, what were you doing then?
I managed the group, but still spent about 60 or 70% of my time actually doing casework.
Okay. But you weren't like a full-time employee after 1995?
Oh, it was a contract.
Okay.
Yeah, they want me, I was usually in 25 hours a week to 40 hours, depends on what was going on.
Okay. And so did you have your own company?
Yes.
Okay. And is that the company you have now?
I don't have it, like I said, I gave it to my associate
Okay.
in 2014, but I still work in the company. It's just, I don't really like doing invoices and all, so, and he's younger than me, so he'll be around longer than me.
Okay, so currently, you started the company, but currently now somebody else owns it and you just work under him.
That's correct.
Okay. So this company was started in 1996, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then you sold it in 2014.
Didn't sell it, gave it to him.
Okay, gave it to him in 2014.
Let's confine it to his qualifications, please. That's going
I
much
understand.
more than needed.
Now, once digital came about, What, if any, classes or anything did you do to become familiar with digital video?
I was starting to list, it's all in my CV, a number of courses.
You know, and that's from what, 1996 until current?
Yeah, my CV, most of all the digital stuff's going to be well after 2000.
Okay,
Because the courses didn't come about till then.
okay. And have you done video comparison?
Oh, we do it all the time.
And have you done reverse projection?
We do not use reverse objection. There's only a handful of companies that actually do that, and there's not that big a demand
Okay,
outside law enforcement. So we use what's done by other people. So instead of us buying all the equipment,
okay.
that we wouldn't use that often.
Okay, so are you familiar with Mr. Frederick's report?
I read it, yes.
Okay, and did you see the attached images?
Yes.
Okay, and did you see where he performed reverse
Listen,
projection?
You're going into now cross-examination material. This doesn't deal with qualifications. Thank you.
Okay.
You'll have an opportunity to cross-examine him fully about what he did.
Yes, sir, Your Honor, but I do have an objection to his qualifications.
Based on what, you don't think he's qualified?
Your Honor, he just testified that he doesn't do reverse
That's
projection.
fine. That's an issue for the jury. Thank you. He's qualified to render opinion in forensic analysis. Thank you. Subject to your objection.
All right, Mr. Koenig, at its most basic, tell us what you're doing whenever you do a forensic analysis of video.
I guess it really depends on what the client has an interest in knowing.
Okay.
You know, we probably do a very large amount of saying, what kind of car is it, or truck, or is this an individual, and can you describe it further? They're probably the areas we see a lot. We see nowadays a lot of gunshot cases. So it really depends on what specific they're interested in.
All right, well, let me ask it this way. Whenever you're dealing with comparing two images or two sets of images, where do you start in trying to do that analysis? I mean, what are the things you're looking for initially?
I think the first thing you always look for is the quality good enough. You know, we actually get videos in and they say, we want you to give us a better picture of the person crossing this road. And we get the video and we don't see anybody crossing the road. And they say, well, we think he crossed it, but it's just hard to see. And we go back and look at it and say, no, we don't, there's nothing on the video. So the quality can be that good, but sometimes we'll get some fairly high quality. Some surveillance systems now use high definition cameras. Most don't, but some do. So we look for the quality, and the qualities can be based on, you know, how good is the camera? How many pixels? That's the little squares that make up the video. You know, the whole video is made up of a bunch of pixels. Little squares of color or black and white, grayscale. And how far away they are from it. Is it during the day where you can see it, or is it at night? In other words, we're looking for the quality. Plus, all video, especially consumer, is compressed. Compression always means you're throwing things away. Usually the fine detail is the first thing they throw away.
Well, when you're doing that comparison, when you're looking at the two different images or sets of images, are you trying to find characteristics or similarities that you can evaluate between the two?
If that's what the client's interested in knowing, the answer is yes.
Okay.
You want to say, what is similar and dissimilar between these two images? You know, are they, some things may be very much alike and other things may be quite different. It just varies by the picture. Sometimes they're virtually identical.
All right, so you're essentially looking for the different characteristics that are consistent from one image to another image. Is that
That's correct.
That's to say. So as a hypothetical, if somebody had a picture from one of our days of court last week and had a picture of court today, and they wanted to know whether or not the suit I'm wearing today is the same suit I wore last week, then you could analyze certain characteristics. Is that safe to say?
That's correct.
You could maybe determine about how long the length is of the suit, correct?
If the quality was good enough.
If
Yes.
the quality was good, you could probably tell some characteristics about the lapel, right?
Correct.
Or the number of buttons, things like that.
We're actually asked questions like that, so it's, you know,
Okay.
have particular shirts that I robbed the bank with, and then they recover a shirt at the person's house.
Okay.
You can say, do they match?
And that would be different from being able to say that you can tell that that is the exact same suit. Is that right?
Yeah, often in those cases, even when it's a good match, the word we use is consistent. Yeah, there could be 1,000 of those shirts out there. We're just saying this one is consistent with what we see in the other picture.
Okay. Well, even within a set of characteristics of a given object, are there things that affect your ability to be able to even make those determinations, those preliminary determinations?
Again, it's back to the quality part, you know, is it, or, you know, if I have a picture of you straight on right here, but the picture I'm comparing to, you're turned, or the lighting is different, all of those things would have an effect on our ability to make a comparison.
But even with that example, even if you had good video, you had a consistent image, you would probably not be able to say, even utilizing the different comparison techniques, that this suit is the exact same suit from the prior image to the exclusion of all others. I mean, you don't have the capability to do that. Is that
Yeah, I agree with that. The exception would be that you've got a mustard stain up here, and part of it is ripped over here, you know, things that would make your suit unique. And then we might be able to say they match.
Because in essence, there's so many suits of the same color, same style, same size, that they're just not unique. Is that?
That would be true, yes.
Okay. All right. Is there were there some examples of things that may be unique enough that you could make those types of conclusions?
There aren't a lot, to be honest, because let's say you had two vehicles, identical. They were both red, 2019 high-end Mustangs, and we had good pictures of both. Well, we know there's a number of other ones out there. Maybe, you know, hundreds of thousands of them out there just like it. So what you look for is something unique. In other words, does it have a specific dent in it? Or if they added some horrible decal and it's crooked on the side of the door on there. In other words, we have to find something that's truly unique about the vehicles, be able to say, this is the only vehicle it could be. So it's very rare that that actually happens.
Are headlight spread patterns unique in that way?
Not in the sense that you could take a video picture, because video's poor quality compared to what, like your camera or something shoots a lot better picture than the video. It doesn't have enough quality. And these, especially newer model cars, have, if anybody's bought one, you know how much they charge you for these extra headlight systems? I mean, it's a fortune. So basically, they're produced in very high quality, so you don't get a lot of differential. So it would have to be somebody, a car we'd be looking for that, you know, one headlight was going up and one was going down or something. Even then, we wouldn't say it had to be that car, but we would say it was consistent with that car. But otherwise, unless there's a truly unique feature that can be portrayed on the video, I mean, it has to be really obvious. It can't be some subtle difference at all. Then you can't say for sure two images match exactly.
All right. During your time at the FBI, did you or anyone on your team use the headlight spread patterns to identify a specific vehicle?
No.
Okay. To your knowledge, are there any peer-reviewed articles that indicate whether vehicle headlight spread patterns are unique in that way?
Not in the forensic world, no.
Okay. And you know, give us an example as to peer review. Why is that significant in the scientific fields?
Yeah, peer reviews are the backbone of science. I'll give you examples where it has changed in our world. For instance, I remember for decades they said, if you're a male and over 40 or 50, you should be taking a small aspirin every day. And about 3 years ago, they came out with this long-term study that said unless you had a heart problem, it was actually bad for you to take an aspirin every day. Well, it's not like the doctors were bad. Doctors are practitioners. They just say, this is what we've seen, we're going to try this. But the science showed they were wrong. It's the same thing here. So the peer-reviewed articles are such that, and like I said, I have almost 50 of them. You go through this process of writing up what you think you'd like to present, okay? And I usually have other authors, so it's not just me. Once we're happy with it, We send it off to people that we think are experts in the field. They can review it really carefully. Once they get done, we then send it to a scientific journal. The journal uses their own reviewers. They can make or break it whether you're going to get published. They come back. If that's approved, it's published in the journal. After it's published in the journal, everyone in that organization and anybody else in the world can read that article, and if they have a problem with it, they then can come into the journal and say, hey, we have problems with this. The editor will then say, write something saying what you want to do, and we'll do it. So then, if it's a legit position, that is then published, and then we get the chance as authors to reply to it if we wish. So this process goes on forever. In other words, the day I die, my papers don't go away. They're always there. They've been peer reviewed, looked at by, my field is not huge, but certainly many hundreds of people that work in the field look at these articles. And they're the ones that decide, yes, this is legit.
Now, Ms. Koenig, have you had an opportunity to review Mr. Frederick's report in this case?
I did.
Okay. Now, let's start off. Are there anything that you agree with in the report?
I believe he did an excellent job of considering the quality of the video, of running what tests that could be run and everything else. And I think he's probably correct saying that it's a F-150 Ford truck of that style.
Okay. Do you believe that it can be scientifically proven that the truck on the video is in fact Sidney Moore's truck to the exclusion of all other F-150 trucks that may be on the road?
No, there's nothing unique in the picture. The video is poor quality, but even if it was high quality, you'd have a problem because, here we don't even have the color of the vehicle. It's too dark to tell for sure exactly what color Ford put on that truck. So therefore, unless you had some truly unique thing, and headlight spreads, and we'll talk about this, I think, a little bit later, but, they're not truly unique, especially under video conditions. They're just not unique.
Okay. What about some other things that may affect, does the distance from the camera, in other words, the object's distance from the camera, does that affect your ability to do these comparisons?
Yes, I mean, if you look at these pixels I talk about that make up the video, so let's say it's 1,000 across horizontally and 600 this way. Okay. If the car was right on top of you, you'll be using most of those pixels to see. But the farther it goes away, you now have less and less pixels taking the picture. In this case, the vehicle is not close to the camera, so you're using only a small number of pixels to be able to see what's there. Where if you saw in the video stuff up close to the camera, had much more detail.
What about other factors such as dirt or debris on the exterior of the headlight casing? Could that have an effect on the different spread pattern that may be shown?
Yes, and I think we've all seen that when we've been out and we've been on a muddy road or something, and all of a sudden we turn our headlights on and they aren't working as well as we'd like them to. It's not as bright. The pattern is not consistent anymore. But that's such a movable thing. When the mud starts drying out, it's going to look different. When somebody cleans them off, it'll go back to something close to what it was before. And the headlights, how long they've been on can affect their pattern. I mean, all these are variables just built into the system.
All right. Now, in his report, Mr. Fredericks mentioned that he had tested 11 vehicles. I mean, in your opinion, is that enough to establish his conclusions in this case?
Well, I think when you test certain things against it, you can say something about what you tested. So if you tested it and said, this truck doesn't match, well, you can say that truck doesn't match. If he's got everything else is consistent, and it's obvious if they don't. But you can't draw from that and say, oh, okay, I tested this truck, and there's 4 million out there, so therefore it will pertain to the other 4 million. You can't do that.
All right. Just a moment, John.
Sir?
Mr. Koenig, I'm going to have you step down, but you don't mind?
No, that's fine.
Thank you.
You can voice elevated, please, sir. Thank you.
Bruce, you've reviewed Mr. Frederick's report, correct?
Yes.
Okay. What I'm showing you, this was a section of it where he compared the,
Rochelle, y'all switch sides
Okay.
immediately so that he's speaking back towards the report. Thank you.
Your Honor, can you see? I need to make an adjustment.
Thank you.
All right, Bruce, this was the section of his report that questioned the known vehicle to the questioned vehicle to the known vehicle on Highway 14. You remember doing this?
Yes, sir.
Let me go to, this is slide 5, and this is where he's
Hold
saying,
on just a second. Can you still? Good. Sorry about that.
I'm good now?
No, that's.
Okay, all right, thank you. So this is the comparison wherein he gave the known vehicle on the 24th of February of 2014 and compared it to the questioned vehicle on December 18th of 2013. You see that?
Yes, sir.
Now, just by looking at it, can you identify, well, in other words, these two, according to Mr. Fredericks, should have matched. Is
Is that what you said?
correct?
I didn't see this particular slide.
Okay, I got you. The known vehicle and the questioned vehicle are the ones that he ultimately concluded matched.
Okay.
And what I'm looking at here is, can you tell me the difference, just at this early stage, between the questioned vehicle and the known vehicle?
Yes, so my understanding from his report, Mr. Frederick went out of his way to duplicate the conditions exactly.
Yes.
And I believe that's what he did.
Okay.
So these two headlight areas should be virtually, if they're the same vehicle, these should be virtually identical. I mean, and keep in mind, there is no golden eyes, as we say in the field. In other words, I can't look at the video and see it any better than you can see it. I can measure it and do some other things, but, so if you look at this, you're seeing differences here. This is, first of all, brighter, and even the detail. You look up here, you see this kind of detail here, and that detail kind of goes more over here. You got an area coming down here. So in other words, visually, they don't match. So you can measure this by looking at each pixel separately that matches up. There's programs that allow you to take the two and overlay them and get a perfect, as good a match as possible, and give you a number. But visually, like I said, these, since it's exactly the same conditions, and I believe Mr. Fredericks absolutely did that. He's very studious of doing things like that. These should look absolutely identical if they're the same. Now, I'm back to the thing saying I don't believe you can do that. So my opinion is you can't make a decision. But if you're going to make a decision on this, they don't match.
We'll go to, that was slide number 5, to about slide number 6. Can you tell the difference in that slide between the two images?
Yes. I mean, there are some little bit of similarities. This looks a little bit different, but it's kind of shaded here. But you can see the light goes farther back here, the lightest areas, and here it really doesn't. It fades off. Again, same conditions should look identical. It should be something we look at and say, oh yeah, they look exactly like.
Okay. This is now slide 7. No difference there.
Again, you're back to, you're even seeing some spacing here between the lights up here that absolutely doesn't exist here at all. This area, if you look up closely here, falls off quicker than this area up here in the light. Again, they don't match.
One more, let's look at this is slide 8. Can you point out any distinguishing features in that slide?
Yeah, this one is quite a bit off. We're like seeing almost waves here of stuff, and back here, and this goes out. Some of this is similar, but you're starting to see some differences out here, and this is here. And you're under conditions that they're absolutely identical. So even if it is the same vehicle, it's obviously the spread light, the headlight spread is not consistent. So it's changed that much over this time period between when the picture was taken. So, and it could very well just be a different vehicle.
And again, we're saying that you wouldn't be able to tell anyway, but based on this comparison of these two tests, that it doesn't appear to match just based on the visual.
Visually, they don't match, no.
And what slide is this, just for the record?
Slide 8.
Which one?
Slide 8.
Okay.
You can grab your seat.
Thank you.
All right, just kind of, bottom line, can you say with any degree of scientific certainty that the truck in the video from the highway is in fact Mr. Moore's truck to the exclusion of all others?
No, I don't believe anybody could ever say that.
Would there be, in your expert opinion, is there any scientific basis to form an opinion like that?
None. In fact, as I saw there, that we're seeing more differences than we are similarities.
Sir?
No further questions, Mr. Wilson.
Very well, you've been cross-examined.
Yes, sir. You mind stepping down, Bruce?
Absolutely.
You mind if I call you by your first name? Would
It's
you?
okay with me? Yeah.
Okay. Now, I'm not a forensic video expert by any means. I'm only going on what I can just see with my two eyes.
I understand.
So tell this jury here in this frame, which is the recreation, the headlights are already in the picture, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And in this frame, the headlights are not in the picture.
Yeah, I didn't include that in my comments.
But are the headlights in this picture here?
It's not in the picture, so I do not know the answer to that.
Okay. So is it possible that the recreation at this point in time and the questioned vehicle are not yet moving at the same speed?
I don't think it has to do with speed, it's positioning of where it is.
Okay, good. I'm glad you brought that up. So the position of this truck, the headlights are already in the frame, correct?
Correct.
And the position of this truck, the headlights are not yet in the frame, correct?
Yeah, no, I understood that when I did it, so I did not try to say that that was different.
Okay, but you would agree if my vehicle is several feet in front of your vehicle, the headlights are going to look different, correct? They're not lined up.
Well, I would, from the position of that your witness said that he lined them up perfectly.
Let's line them up. You want to line them up? Are you okay with me using this, Mr. Boucher? I don't want to, and I'm going to hit down to go to the next slide. Is that okay? Okay, now would you agree it appears that they're lined up? It's not like one is off the screen and one is on the screen.
Yeah, I agree with you completely.
Okay, so you would agree before, when you were looking at those headlights, clearly one truck was further back than the other one. They were not in the same position.
Yes, I understand.
Okay. But now that they are in the same position, would you agree that this comparison is correct? These items are consistent, Mr. Fredericks pointed out with the red line.
But again, they have to be perfectly consistent to be able to match it up. So there are, this area right here is different. This area right here is different. This line is not always consistent across here. This area right here doesn't match very well at all. This area has dropout in light more than this one does. This one has some jagged thing through here, this one does not. This has this line that goes over here that didn't exist here.
Okay, step back, Mr. Cummings. But you would agree the items that Mr. Fredericks had pointed out are certainly consistent
You're talking about the very beginning.
with the red line.
Oh, but even there, you can see, this line goes out farther. This area right here is not as pronounced at all there. This is it. So in other words, you expect a virtually identical match. Look at this part up here. This is not as long as this area.
Let's keep looking.
Okay?
Y'all need to remember the jury needs to see what you're pointing to, too.
I understand, Judge, thank you.
Thank you.
And what Mr. Fredericks pointed out here, would you agree these two are consistent?
This is still, this area right here is longer than this area. And again, we're looking, it should be a perfect match, and it isn't.
Now, would you agree here that Mr. Fredericks has pointed out that this is consistent with this, the question and the known vehicle are consistent?
Well, this area has a dropout right here. This area does not. This has kind of an overlay area that continues to the end. This one does not. So they're somewhat alike, but they're not. They don't match perfectly at all.
So you're saying right now with all these, that this is not, the question vehicle is not consistent to the known vehicle?
I'm saying that if you're saying you did exactly the same thing, and you're saying absolutely it's this vehicle based on this information, to me, there's probably more dissimilarities overall than there are similarities. I would guess you could take any vehicles that have the headlights, same vehicle, aligned the same way, they would have a lot of similarities. You
So
expect similarities.
So now you're saying it's not a Ford 150?
Well, no. I think from other work he did and everything else, that I think it probably is a Ford F-150.
Okay, and would you agree it's dark in color?
Part of the problem, the answer is I don't think it's white or a light color.
Okay,
But sometimes at night, because you don't have any light on it, medium range colors on cars can appear darker than they are, or sometimes lighter.
okay.
So you can't make an absolute decision.
But it's not white or silver?
Yes, I would believe it is not real light color.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. And you would agree it's a Ford 150?
I would agree that based on what he did, it probably is a Ford F-150.
Okay, and you would agree that it was a four-door truck?
Yes.
Okay. And you would agree it had a toolbox?
I would say a back that it could be, just because something lights on the back there, in that area could definitely have a toolbox. I'm not arguing that it could be a toolbox, but it could potentially do something else.
Okay, but you agree that there is something silver that reflects that would be in the back of the truck where the place of the toolbox is?
I would agree on all that statements if I can't tell you it's silver. It's something that's reflecting. You can have something dark that reflects sometimes, and yet it'll look white in the picture, but it's not.
Does
So,
this truck look white in the picture?
sure does.
Okay, so you're saying now, you're telling this jury now, you can have something dark that actually reflects light,
Oh,
actually
yeah.
looks white.
You look at this surface here. Here's a black surface. If I shine a light on it, it's going to show up in parts of it as white.
Okay.
If you take a
Did
picture
you
of
see
it.
anything that showed it looked white on this truck?
No, again, I'm not arguing to be a toolbox.
Okay.
I'm just saying I can't tell you it is a toolbox.
And these again are all the comparisons Mr. Fredericks made.
I understand that,
Okay.
but you're seeing differences in every one of those areas.
Okay. And how about here? Do you see what Mr. Fredericks pointed out here?
Okay, we're only talking about this area up here.
Yep, just what he pointed to.
Yeah, that area is relatively consistent, though you're seeing much more detail up here, and you're not seeing there's none here. So, yeah, you're looking for the little details, because you expect the big areas to kind of look alike truck to truck.
Okay.
So you're looking for the details. These details are definitely different right here.
Okay, so you're saying now one of them isn't a Ford 150?
That's not what I'm saying at all.
Okay.
I think from his other work on here, that this is probably consistent with Ford F-150
That had four doors?
that had Ford.
Okay. And it was definitely not white or silver?
I would agree with that statement.
Okay, okay. Now, I want to ask you, we've talked a lot about Mr. Frederick's work, correct? Now, tell this jury, do you disagree with what he did to find the ultimate question as to whether or not the known truck was the question truck? Do you have any issues with what he did?
Your question is pretty general. Specifically, what are you talking about?
Do you question any of the work that he did, comparing the recreation, the reverse projection? Do you take issue with any of the preparation he did to come up with his ultimate opinion?
Sorry,
It's okay.
I wasn't sure what your question was
Okay.
exactly. It looked like to me he was pretty methodical on that, so I really, I did not repeat it, so I can't tell you that I went and did it and made sure, but
Okay.
I would think the procedures, it's really that indecision that's more, that I just can't agree with all.
Let me ask you something. The cameras that he used to compare off Highway 814 and Mill Pond, there were 2 surveillance cameras that linked to this. Did you actually look at those DVRs or the raw data from those DVRs?
I looked at what was received by the defense in the way of videos.
Okay, so you didn't actually look at the DVR?
I did not.
Okay.
But they should be, it's digital, so it should be an identical copy.
Okay, let me ask you something. One video DVR was collected here on 814.
Okay.
One was collected at Mill Pond.
I'm gonna,
Did you?
I'm gonna object. I don't know, that's, he stated he doesn't.
I'm getting
Maybe
an answer.
Cross-examination, I'll allow you to have redirect. Continue.
Did you go to either one of those locations?
No.
Okay. Did you go and examine the known truck in person?
I didn't need to do any of those things. That's why I didn't request that.
Okay. So you didn't go to the location of either video camera?
No, I depended on his work that he did, and that's what I was asking.
Okay. And you didn't actually see the known truck in person?
Nope, did not.
And you didn't actually examine the DVR that we got this information off of?
Well, I was told I was given an exact copy of what was on the DVR.
Okay.
So the answer is, since I did look at it, it should be an exact copy.
Did you put your hand on the DVR from 814 or Mill Pond?
I did not.
Okay. Did you go back and perform any testing such as reverse projection, which Mr. Fredericks did here comparing vehicles?
Well, reverse projection got him so he could match where the truck was. That isn't the images I was looking at. That was not the question for me. It was whether he could draw a conclusion that this is the only vehicle in the whole world that could possibly be there.
Okay. I think you misunderstood my question.
Sorry.
Did you actually perform any comparisons using reverse projection, which Mr. Fredericks did in his report?
Well, I didn't personally do it, but I used his.
Okay, but you didn't personally do it?
That's correct.
Okay. You didn't personally make any comparisons at all?
Yes, I looked at what he did.
Okay. Have a seat, Mr. Carter.
Thank you.
Now, you're saying that when Mr. Fredericks did the comparison and used the other trucks, you're saying all that work was sufficient to say that it was a Ford 150 four-door truck, not white or silver?
I believe that his analysis showed it's probable that it's that. Since I didn't specifically go and look and say, are there other trucks he should have tested that he didn't, things like that. But if all that, he really did test all the trucks, then I'd say it seems to be consistent with F-150.
Okay, and you just said if he really did test other trucks, did you review the report to confirm that he did test other trucks?
I looked at his report, but I don't know every truck made in the world. So I don't know that there couldn't be another truck potentially. I'm not saying there is, but there potentially could be other trucks. You know, I've even seen people take a standard cab truck and add a section in the middle to make it into what a king cab kind of truck again. People have made trucks up like that, you know, so we can't say that.
Now it could be some truck that somebody added to or created at home.
Could have, yes, that's what I'm saying. That's why I can't say absolutely it has to be a Ford 150 it could, of that type, because it could have been a modified Ford 150 or something. I don't know that.
Okay, it could be, could it be a spaceship in the shape of a Ford 150 too?
He's answering the question. But fine, that's argument.
just so I'm clear, you didn't do anything other than look over what Grant Fredericks did?
Yes, I depended upon what he did at the site, and I think he seems to have done a good job on the preparation work.
No further question.
Redirect.
It's very good. Mr. Koenig, were you hired to do anything other than evaluate Mr. Frederick's report and provide your thoughts and opinion to myself and to the jury if necessary?
That's correct.
Okay. Your Honor, I don't have any further questions.
Recross.
Just one, Your Honor. First, Jared just asked you what you were hired to do, and it was just to review Grant Fredericks' report, correct?
That's correct.
And who hired you to do that?
Originally,
Who brought you here today?
it's a different group. I had a private attorney that hired me at the beginning, and then we were hired through a third party. We're actually hired through a third party. We were not hired by the Public Defender's Office. The
Okay.
Public Defender's Office is the third party's client. I know it gets kind of confusing, but in other words, so we had different clients.
Okay, who originally hired you?
I was hired by a lawyer
One
named,
second before you answer that. Approach.
today.
Mm-hmm.
Who paid us to be here, or
Who asked you to come? Is a question.
Mr. Bouchet?
Okay. And it certainly wasn't us, was it?
No, ma'am.
Okay. No further questions.
All right. Thank you, sir. You may
Thank you.
come down. You wish this witness to be excused?
I do, Your Honor.
Any objections, Solicitor?
No, sir, Judge.
You're free to leave, sir.
Thank you.
Call your next witness.
Your Honor, defense will call Ashley Caison.
Okay.
Your Honor, I'm returning states 128 back to the evidence before I
Thank you,
forget about
sir.
Set the record here, so please.
Please raise your right hand. Place your left hand on the Bible. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the evidence you're about to give the court in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God? I do. Thank you. Please consider. Please state your full name and spell your last name.
Ashley Caison, C-A-I-S-O-N.
Ms. Caison, tell the jury a little bit about yourself. How old are you? Where are you from? That kind of thing.
I'm 35. I was born and raised here in Myrtle Beach.
What kind of, go ahead, I'm sorry. What kind of work do you do?
I'm a server for Britain Resorts.
Ma'am, are you familiar with Sidney Moore?
Yes, he's my brother-in-law.
He's your brother-in-law. So that makes you Tammy Moore's sister?
Sister, yes.
Okay. Now, we called you to the witness stand to give us some background information on this case. Did you have an opportunity to see Sidney Moore on the early morning hours of December 18th, 2013?
Yes, I sent their children home around 3:15.
Okay, tell us the circumstances. What do you mean you sent the children home at 3:15?
I was watching them earlier in that night, probably from, I would say it was still light when they brought it over the day before, and up until 3:15.
Do you routinely watch the children?
Yes.
Okay, so you being asked to watch the kids that night was not something unusual, out of the ordinary?
Not at all.
Now, how do you know that you sent them home at 3:15?
Well, I know for sure because of a text message that I got at 3:10 saying that she was home. And what that indicates to me is to get the children ready and send them across our yard because she lives directly behind me.
Okay, and who did you receive this text message from at 3:10?
My sister's phone.
Okay. That would be Tammy's phone.
Yes.
And you said you sent them across the yard. What do you mean by that?
Their house is literally, it's on the same acre of land as mine. So they literally walk across a little path of stones and then they'll be on their porch.
Okay. And is it unusual for Sidney to pick up the kids around 3 in the morning?
No, they work late. So a lot of times they'll come home at those hours, but they always wanted the kids home so they could do their homeschool.
Okay. Now, when you sent them home approximately 3:15, did you interact with Sidney or Tammy Moore?
I did not speak with them other than seeing them on their porch. I saw both of them as well as their truck in the driveway.
Okay, so at 3:15, you saw Sidney Moore at his house.
Standing at his front door, yes. They were opening the front door.
And you also saw Tammy Moore at the house.
Yes.
And you saw the truck.
Yes.
Okay. Did you have any other interactions with them at that time, 3:15 in the morning?
No, after they went inside, I went back into my house and finished what I was working on.
Okay. Which was what?
I was going couponing that day at Bilo. They were doing a triple coupon event, and it started at midnight. I wanted to go then. I even asked my sister if she'd come home early and go with me, but they weren't able to come home.
You're talking about Tammy. You wanted her to go with you at midnight.
Yeah, well, anytime she could get home, I was wanting her to go with me, but when they got home, they went to bed, so.
Okay. For the period of time that you did see them around 3:15, did they appear to be acting out of the ordinary?
No, they just went just like normal. They wouldn't normally come over there. The kids would just walk to them.
Did they appear to be dressed in a unique way, or torn clothing, bloody clothing, anything like that?
No.
Now, when was the next time that you had interaction with Sidney and Tammy Moore?
Later that morning, I woke up probably, I'm thinking around 6, and I know I texted her around 7, because I had to get my, she had my key card, which has like all the little store it's a keychain that I literally put all of the store coupon scannies, I don't know what you call them.
Card,
Yeah, like the little bonus cards.
the little Kroger
Yeah.
card, the little Food Line card.
She used mine as well, so she had them in her possession, so I had to walk over to their house to get them.
Okay, and what time was that?
It was probably around 7.
All right. So when you walked over to the house at 7 a.m., did you lay eyes on Sidney or Tammy Moore?
Sidney and Tammy were both in the bedroom, and Caison was actually sleeping at the foot of their bed.
Okay. Did anything appear out of the ordinary when you saw them at 7 a.m.?
No, she was watching TV.
Did the house seem to be disheveled in any unnatural way?
No,
Did they appear to be nervous or breathing heavily or sweating profusely?
no, she was in her gown in her bed, just watching TV.
Would it be fair to say that they appeared kind of normal?
Yep. Sidney was stressed. I will say that.
Okay. But you did,
But he was also just relaxing in the bedroom.
did you have a chance to talk to him at that time?
Yes.
Okay. So you talked to him at around 7 a.m.
Yes.
and that was at the house?
In their house, yes.
Do you recall if the truck was in the yard?
Yes. My keychain was actually in the truck. They had to go get it out they had to unlock the truck and go get it.
Okay. Did the truck appear to have anything that would be unusual?
No.
Anything like blood or hair or any bloody clothing, anything like that in the vehicle that you could see?
I didn't go in the truck, but no, from where I can see, nothing looked out of normal.
Nothing stood out of the ordinary to you?
Right.
All right. Now, there's been some testimony about Sidney and Tammy washing the truck. What can you tell us about that?
If it's the day that I'm remembering in question, that was a day that I had, it was really warm outside, and I bought Sidney a cleaning kit for Christmas, because I think it was around, I'm gonna say the 21st, 22nd roughly. I'm not sure on the exact date, but I know it was a really warm day for December, and I really wanted to use this kit, and I had him open his gift early, and we all washed our cars.
Okay, so how many cars were getting washed at that time?
3.
And who was doing the washing?
I washed my Jeep at the time, Jeep Grand Cherokee, and I believe Tammy and Sidney were working on the black F-150. And we had a silver Ford Focus at the time that belonged to my boyfriend, and he was working on that.
Okay, so there were several people cleaning several cars.
Yes.
Was there anything that struck you as unusual or out of the ordinary in them cleaning that truck?
Not really. I mean, I wasn't really paying attention to her cleaning her truck. To be honest, I was cleaning my own. So, I mean, we were all sharing the supplies going back and forth because we were using the same box of cleaners.
Okay. Now, we've heard testimony that there was a burn pile on the Moore property. What can you tell these jurors about that?
We have several. They're still there. There's 2 still there. At the time, I believe we had 2 in the playground area, and we have 1 on the side of our house.
Now, these burn piles, were they standard, or was it like a new burn pile that had been created just that day?
It was a daily use. Every day we used them. We hardly ever took anything off to trash, including cardboard, because it was just easier to get rid of it at home.
Well, do you live in the unincorporated part of the county?
We are allowed to have the fire in the yard, yes.
I mean, I'm just saying because I think a lot of
Yeah, there's a lot of restrictions, but I mean, unless there's a burn ban, that would be the only reason why you wouldn't be allowed to.
Well, let me say it like this. Do you all have weekly trash? Excuse me. Do you all have weekly trash pickup services?
I'm sure it's offered, but we don't subscribe to that now.
Okay. Would it be fair to say that a lot of people who live out in the county have burn piles in their yard?
Yeah, especially where we're at. I smell fire almost every day.
Excuse me. So was there anything unusual about the burn piles that Sidney Moore had at the house?
No. Unusual would be if they weren't going
Because they use them all the time?
all the time.
Okay. Death threats. We've heard testimony about death threats. Can you give these jurors some information on that?
It's a very big topic. Is you have something more particular that I can speak on, or?
I guess my question is, where are we going with this and why is it
I
relevant?
don't know whether we're going, you object to it. That's already been, testimony's already been brought in about that, concerning the video, the security cameras, so I don't know where you're going with this.
All right, well,
Be cautious of what you do.
tell us about your telephone. Did you have occasion to have any difficulties with your phone?
Not my phone personally. Someone cloned my phone number and pretended to be me and sent information to, I'm not sure if she's a detective, her name was Carmen, false information saying it was from me.
Okay, so did you send any information to a detective named Carmen?
No.
And it's your testimony that someone cloned your phone and did that?
That's what I was told by her. She arrested the person and they're still currently charged with obstruction.
Okay, so someone was arrested for that?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'm just going to object because she's clearly getting into opening the door.
Yeah,
Moving on, Your Honor.
thank you.
I think you said that your house and the Moore house shared the same acre of land?
Yes.
Okay. And were you over at the Moore house on a regular basis?
Yes.
Did you observe cameras at the Moore house?
They installed I think it was a 12 camera set, probably around the 20th or 21st, due to the threats.
Okay. Yeah, we've gotten testimony about that. Was there a camera system before that one was installed?
Not one that recorded. It was like a nanny cam, but it had only worked for about 6 months when they got it in 2011.
Well, how do you know that it didn't record?
I was in the house all the time. I would have known if they were recording anything.
Okay. So it's your testimony that there was a camera system that did not record?
Yes, it wasn't even working in 2013 at all. It wouldn't even show a video. I believe it stopped working about 6 months into him bringing it home.
Okay. Were these cameras newly purchased cameras?
No, they were used cameras that were brought home from Margaritaville.
Brought home by whom?
Sidney did maintenance for them. I started working for them in 2011. And I know they had an off-site building that they used to store all the retail merchandise in. And from what I understand, those are the cameras they used in that area. Just so people thought they were on camera. They didn't even record at Margaritaville.
So it's your testimony that the cameras that the Moores had at the house were the same cameras that were formerly used at Margaritaville?
Yes, in their storage area.
And that these cameras did not record?
Yes.
Now, we've had testimony about Sidney having a tattoo. What can you tell the jury about that?
Sidney got the tattoo in January of 2012. It was a gift for his birthday, from what I was told. I was with him when he got it.
Okay, this would have been, you said 2012?
Yes, January. It was right at his birthday.
So that is a year before Miss Elvis disappeared?
Yep.
So the tattoo was not obtained as a result of this investigation or anything like that?
No, it was definitely January 2012.
Okay. Now, how often would you say you were at the Moore residence?
If not every day, I mean, it would have been every other day at least. Mostly every day though, because, I mean, if I was just hanging out, I'd go hang out with my sister, so, or see the kids.
Did you ever see Heather Elvis at the Moore residence?
No,
Did you ever see Heather Elvis in the F-150 truck?
no.
Court's indulgence.
Sir.
No further questions. Please answer any questions the state has.
Your cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, Ms. Caison, you told this jury that you were so excited about that cleaning of the truck because you got him a new gift. Do you remember that?
Yep.
For Christmas?
Yes.
Okay. And let me ask you this, the surveillance footage, did you actually see it?
I have not.
Okay, but you know that you cleaned his truck?
I don't know exactly what I did. We cleaned 3 cars that day.
Okay.
I know I detailed mine.
Okay. And right before that, you were looking for bugs, weren't you? You and your sister Tammy were
Bugs?
looking through, to see if the police had left any, I'm assuming, devices. Y'all were looking all through the tree.
No, that I don't recall.
Okay. I can play this video and it can refresh your memory. You want me to refresh your memory?
Sure.
Okay.
I don't recall doing that.
Okay. I can refresh your memory.
What did it say?
And then I'll get it marked, Your Honor.
Thank you. You're introducing that. You're happy to introduce the player.
No, sir, I'm just refreshing her memory.
But you had to have something to say that that's You got to have it identified. She's got to know it to refresh her memory.
Well, you know you had a surveillance tape, right? You knew you had a
That
surveillance
is in the
tape.
installed surveillance,
Okay,
yes.
and you know that y'all, whatever was going on at the house was on surveillance, correct?
I would assume.
Okay, and cleaning the truck and anything around that time would have been on surveillance, correct?
Yeah,
Okay, and you can certainly look at this first shot and tell me if that's Tammy's house, right?
if I can see it.
Yeah, I'll let her look at that. Move it around just so she,
Any objection? Yeah.
No, sir.
All right.
I think.
It's 200. Say 200.
Yes.
Okay.
You recognize that?
Yes, that's their phone.
Okay, and that's where the video would show me. So you recognize these people here?
Yes, that's Tammy and Sidney.
How about that guy?
It's Josh.
Who?
Josh.
And who is he to you?
It's my boyfriend.
Okay, and is that you in the black?
Yep.
Okay, Your Honor, this time the state wishes to put 200 into evidence. I believe she's identified that indeed this is from their surveillance.
No, sir.
That objection is admitted.
Okay, now I want to show you, we're going to fast forward, Judge, so we're time efficient. But I want to show you what appeared to me right before the truck wash, and it looked like you and your sister were out looking through the bushes and the trees for something maybe the police had left, some sort of lifting.
Are you assuming that?
I know, I'm going to let you look at it. You tell me. You
Because
tell
I
me.
haven't looked for the bugs.
You tell me. You were out there.
I didn't say I wasn't outside. I didn't do what you're saying I did.
Okay. Well, let's look at it. Who's that looking through that plant?
I think that's Tammy.
Okay. What's that in her hand? A little mirror? Look like one of the sheriff's office guys. You see that little mirror? Or that's what it looks like to me. I don't know. You tell
Are
me.
you sure she's not pulling
Objection, Your Honor,
weeds?
argumentative.
It looks to me like she's pulling weeds out of her
Okay, well,
garden,
keep looking.
what she did all the time.
Keep looking. Look, that's you, right?
Mhm.
You got that camera on your shoulder?
I do.
Okay. Is she pulling weeds now, you think?
Not from a fountain.
Okay,
But
you
I'm
think-
not aware of what she's got in her hand or what she's doing.
Okay, does it look like a mirror?
I can't tell, to be honest. It's too far away. Either it's too far away or the
Okay.
picture's not good enough.
How about now? Can you tell what she's got in her hand now?
I just see something dark. I can't even tell what that is in her right hand right now.
And that's you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So is that you actually out there with Tammy?
That's me standing on the sidewalk, yes.
Okay, and did you know this was right before the truck was washed? Do you remember that? Did that refresh your memory?
I remember washing my car. I don't recall washing her truck, or I never touched whatever she was doing.
Okay,
So I'm not aware of what she's doing.
okay, clearly you were out there with her.
I'm with her a lot.
Okay, and you mean to tell me when she had a mirror looking under that fountain, you weren't like, what in the hell are you doing?
I may have been at the time, but I don't even know what she has in her hand. You're assuming it's a mirror.
Okay, so nothing at all was odd about her out there looking through the trees and looking with a mirror?
Honestly, I wouldn't have thought that was odd because we were being threatened all the time.
Okay. Well, this was on the 2nd?
Mm-hmm.
And y'all had been threatened all the time at the 22nd?
Yes.
Okay. Now, let me ask you something.
As a matter of fact, the reason why we washed our cars together is because of all the people that have been coming down the road.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because we've been watching this video for a while. Have you seen one vehicle ride back and forth?
I haven't been paying attention to the road. I've been looking at where you've been
I can
asking
tell
me
you I
about.
was. There wasn't. Did you see anybody else but you and her walking all up around here?
No, they don't come, no one comes in that area. They wouldn't do that.
Okay. And why'd you have a camera?
Why to have a camera?
Yeah.
Because we took pictures of the people that came down the road.
Okay. Well, did you see anybody come down the road then?
No, that's why I wasn't taking pictures.
Okay.
But that was only a few minutes of our life.
Okay. And this was right before y'all washed the truck, correct?
That's what you're saying. I don't know. I can't tell you that exactly.
Okay. But you would, I tell you what I'll do. This is at 12:23, 14:34, and I'm not gonna play the whole tape, Judge. I just want to pop it in and show the time frame.
That's fine.
Put that back in here. 12:23. I'm just gonna pop this in for the time frame. Can you just, pop that in? I'm sorry, she's giving me the signal. She lawyer 192.
192, thank you.
And that's you and Tammy up there?
I can't tell who's up there. I saw a red shirt.
And just fast forward just a bit so we can check that time and date. And did you see your boyfriend on the camera flip the bird?
Yep.
Who was that to?
I believe they were testing the cameras.
Just flipping the bird at your own camera?
Yeah, they're aware that they're there. Goes to show you that we knew they were filming.
Now Tammy got the camera?
I guess.
Okay.
She could have been first, I don't know.
And do you remember this?
Bringing groceries in?
Well, this is right before everybody watched the truck. Do you remember this part or no?
Am I in this? I don't recall this, but
That's you?
yeah, it looks like I just walked from my house.
Okay. And got a shot back in Sidney can?
Maybe.
Okay. And the date on this is 12/23/1552. So shortly after y'all were out there in the yard, whatever that is with the mirror.
Yeah, later on in the evening, it was in the 70s, and we decided to wash the cars.
Okay. So what you're telling this jury today is y'all were out there washing the car because you had given him a kit, not because you were worried about the police collecting evidence either through. That way you can answer.
Gotcha.
I don't want you to answer too quick and answer the wrong question.
Gotcha.
So what you want to tell this jury today is that the reason they were washing the truck was because you had bought him some sort of Christmas present, not because you were out there looking for devices that had been planted in an effort to destroy or make sure the police weren't able to collect any information.
That is definitely why I was washing my vehicle. Tammy, I gave it to her, told them, you know, hey, if you guys want to wash yours, so be it. But me and Josh wanted to wash our cars, and selfishly, we hit the present early.
Okay. So now you're saying you didn't really know anything about them washing the truck.
Well, they were right next to us washing their truck. I didn't know if they were gonna wash their truck. They chose to, yes.
Okay. I thought you said earlier the whole thing about him washing the truck was you bought him a Christmas present.
I insinuated he should wash his truck so I could use the gift,
Oh, okay.
and they did.
Okay, but it was clearly before the 25th Christmas.
Yes, it would have been early. That's why I did it the way I did.
Okay. Now, you testified earlier. Let me ask you something, just out of curiosity. Did y'all find anything?
I wasn't looking for anything.
Did Tammy find anything? You over there every
I
day?
haven't, well, I don't recall her finding anything now.
Okay.
But I don't even know what she was looking for, to be honest. I wasn't involved in that. I was outside, but I wasn't looking for anything.
It's okay. Did you know that the sheriff's office takes a mirror and goes up under all the chairs, and that's how they look for devices in this courtroom to make sure it's secure? Did you know that?
No, I've never been involved in that.
But she didn't find anything.
I don't know if she was looking for anything, so I can't answer that question.
Okay.
If she did tell me about it.
But you over there every day.
Usually, yeah.
Okay. And currently.
I was standing right beside her and I still don't know what she was doing.
Okay. That's right. Now, let me talk to you a little bit about the night or the early morning of 12/18. Okay? You told Mr. Galmore you sent those kids home at 3:15.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you saw Tammy and Sidney.
Yes, they were standing on their front porch.
Okay. Now, I want to be fair to you, and you and I have actually talked before. I'm gonna call it talked.
If you mean sitting here,
Yes.
that's it, yeah.
Okay. And I want to be fair to you, so I want to refresh your memory that earlier when you talked to the police, you told them that the kids went home and you went back to sleep. Do you remember that when the guy interviewed you back closer in time to 2013?
The kids went home, I went back in my room, finished what I was doing, and I went to sleep around 4 a.m.
Okay. So you weren't constantly, well, let me show you this, just to be fair, and I'm going to mark it. I'm showing you now. Whatever mark mistakes, 201.
201 for the application.
And you agree with me. You told the police, I guess, I didn't, I was asleep. When he was asking you, he could have left, right? And you're saying, look, I don't know, I was asleep.
Well, once I went back in my house, I didn't bother looking at them anymore. Like I said, I sent the kids home at 3:15, and that was the last I saw them until 7 o'clock that morning.
Okay. So you don't know where they were at or what they were doing between the time frames of 3:15 and 7 a.m.?
No, because I went back in my house and finished what I was doing, slept for about an hour and a half, and then I went to the store later on that evening, or that morning. And then they were home at 7 a.m. for sure, because I walked over there to get my key card.
Okay. Now, I'm going to ask you another question. I think we've cleared that up. The camera system.
Mm-hmm.
Your mom is Polly, correct?
Yes.
She actually...
That's not her legal name, but yeah, she goes by Polly.
Okay. she actually had a monitor in her home, did she not, for that camera system?
The one that they installed later,
The one.
there was actually two systems. She had her own system.
Okay. So did she have one back on 12/18 of 2013?
No,
Okay. But she had a monitor, didn't she?
no,
She's never had a monitor in her house.
no. Up until they went to Sam's and bought the DVRs, she's never had surveillance of any kind, not even a nanny cam in her home.
Okay. Let me ask you this. You've already told this jury that you're over there every day. Where are you living now?
I live in the same house.
Okay, and who lives with you?
My mom,
And who else?
Caison's currently living with us, and Josh.
Okay, and tell this jury who Caison is.
Caison's Tammy's son. Tammy and Sidney's son.
Okay, so currently his son is living with you.
Yes.
So y'all are an extremely close family.
But yeah, of course we wouldn't just not give him a place to live. Both of his parents are incarcerated.
Well, let me ask you this much.
He's 13.
Has Tammy always lived right there behind you?
Yes.
Okay, and when they got married, Sidney always lived there behind you.
Yes, they built a house there.
Okay, so as long as you can remember, they were living on the same acre of land.
Yes.
You always had a good relationship with Sidney?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, and y'all have never had any kind of falling out?
I mean, nothing major.
Right.
I'm not a big fan of him at the moment.
But you came here to help him out, didn't you?
Yes, because I mean, I can only say what I know.
Look, it's fine. One second, Your Honor.
Sure. Yeah.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Very well, can you read, Mr. Campbell?
All right, Ms. Caison, we're going to skip all of that and just let me ask you a few questions. Do you know who suggested washing the cars that day?
I did.
And how is it that you came to suggest washing cars that day?
I was selfishly taking advantage of the weather. I knew I had it under the tree, and I asked them to open it early.
Did Tammy come to you and say, sis, we need to wash this truck?
No, she actually kind of was like, wow. When I pulled it out, because I don't know if she really actually wanted to wash her truck.
Okay, did Sidney come to you and say, quick, I need to wash this truck, let's pull it up here and you can wash yours and we'll act like we're washing 3 cars together?
No, I asked Tammy before I told Sidney about it, because I didn't know if I should spoil the surprise. I was like, should I give him his gift early? And she's like, I guess, go ahead.
Okay, now, you testified that you saw Tammy and Sidney at 3:15 on the early morning hours of December 18th of 2013, right?
Yes.
Okay. And at that time, they did not appear to be acting unusual.
No, everything was normal.
And the next time you saw them was at 7 a.m., approximately 4 hours later, correct?
Correct.
At that time, were they acting unusual?
No.
Thank you, ma'am. No further questions.
Recross, Smudge.
Just 1 second, Judge. No questions, Your Honor.
Very well. All right, you can come down, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point, we'll take a recess, let you go to your jury room, do not begin your deliberations, we'll be with you about 10 minutes. Are there anything from the state before recess?
No, you don't.
Anything from the defendant?
No, sir.
Let's approach, please. Chat for a minute.